Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Heidi Schemmel. I am the Associate Director of Scholarship Management here at Miami University. I am glad you're joining us today for our special Student Emergency Needs Fund and Scholarship panel brought to you by the University Advancement Office. As Miami's most loyal and dedicated supporters, we want to give you a glimpse of how important your generosity is and at how it makes a difference to our student population. The first member of our panel is Brent Shock. He is our Vice President of Enrollment Management and Student Success here at Miami University. Brent, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. So we just have a couple questions to run through and we're excited to have you. So we'll start off with a very important topic of Emergency Needs Fund. In your role, you're responsible for putting that fund to use in support of our students. Could you tell us a little bit more about that fund?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Heidi. Thank you. So this fund came about last year as the brainchild of our advancement operation, and they wanted to raise some funds because they knew that Miami families, Miami students, and their parents would likely be experiencing difficult outcomes as a result of the COVID-19 virus. And so they began to set out to do sort of an all-out campaign to raise money for the Emergency Needs Fund, with the idea that this fund would be flexible and able to quickly adapt and meet students and parents' needs as they were working to re-enroll the students in the summer, fall, or spring. And it's 100% donor funded, and a little bit over $1 million so far has been raised in the fund, and to date we've utilized about $850,000 of those funds between fall and spring semester of this year.
Wonderful. Now, could you give us a few examples of how those funds are being put to use in support of our students?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Let me say first of all that one of the things that's really important to me is that all Miami students have the Miami experience, regardless of their familial background, where they're from, or whatever circumstances that they are experiencing. And one of the things that we do very carefully, and we do, I think, really well, is we work to preserve and protect the dignity of students as they are raising their hand and saying, we may need a little bit of additional help here. And so we've been able to be creative with this fund and help families in a number of ways. One of the things that's been really interesting about this pandemic and the early on resulting economic slowdown was that, unlike other economic slowdowns, this one seemed to be really impacting students and their jobs more than their parents and their jobs. This is, I've worked in and around financial aid for 29 years. This is, by my count, the third economic slowdown that I've worked through as a financial aid professional. And in the first two, parent positions, parent jobs were heavily impacted. This one, it's the student jobs. If you think about what was most impacted by COVID, it's the service sector industries, the restaurants, the amusement parks, the movie theaters, where many of our students would find summer employment. And so as we moved into late summer, early fall, we were hearing from lots of families that were experiencing difficulty, worried about paying for Miami tuition or room and board, and coming back to school because they themselves, the students themselves, had not been able to have the normal employment cycle that they had enjoyed in the past several summers. To be fair, we did see a number of parents that had lost their jobs, and so we were able to help in both of those situations. And some other things that we would see is sort of normal but catastrophic, certainly, life circumstances such as a parent passing away. And even some really interesting stories where some of our older non-traditional students who had been able to make everything work, where suddenly everyone was working from home and the internet was not as reliable and food costs were going up, and they just needed a little bit of assistance to help them make it through the semester. And all through it all, the Emergency Needs Fund was there to help in very targeted and proactive ways, so that our students could persist in their educational pursuit. I mentioned earlier that we spent about $850,000 so far. That's assisted a little over 400, almost 430 students at last count.
That's wonderful. It's great that we have that opportunity to support them. So as we kind of look that, you know, we all hope we're returning to normal and we're moving that direction. But how do you see the need for our emergency need fund continuing, even as we the phrase return to normal?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Heidi. So a few things that come to mind. First, I think that in any given year, without COVID, without any type of economic change, there are just some families that are always going to be in a flux or state of change or having some sort of personal crisis. And so there always has been, and there always will continue to be a need for some sort of emergency assistance for students and their families. In the past, we've been able to work through it sort of on a case-by-case situation. The Emergency Needs Fund gave us a series of funds that were available quickly to respond in a very fast time frame for families. And going forward, while I do believe the need in terms of the dollar figure will be less, I do expect that we'll still continue to see families that will need some assistance. How much that is, I don't obviously know, but there will always be students that will find themselves in an unusual circumstance or situation, and they'll be reaching out to see how Miami might be able to assist.
Yeah. Okay, so if we look at donor-funded scholarships and we go a little more broadly than just emergency need, how have you seen those donor funds supporting our students and our campus during the pandemic?
Yeah, so they've supported our students in much the same way that they've always supported our students, in which they've provided a means to be able to attend Miami. One of the best things about my role over the years is being able to see out of all the kindness that you all have shown in Miami by contributing to scholarships and to scholarship funds, I get to be on the opposite end of that, where I'm able to offer that out to students and see sometimes the relief that comes across a parent's face, sometimes the tears of joy or relief that come across the student's face, and just to see how it lifts students and their families to making Miami more affordable, and honestly just relieving some of the concern that they have around college costs. And so that has not changed in the pandemic with our donor scholarships. We've been able to make effective use of them. Enrollment was very stable this year across Miami's campuses, and so we've been able to move forward as an institution in ways that maybe people thought initially as we entered the pandemic we would not be able to, but we were. And a large part of that is due to the generosity of our alums who have given so generously to these funds.
Wonderful. So speaking of enrollment, I know that that's usually a topic of much interest. So looking onto next year, what are you kind of seeing in your office for our enrollment? Yeah, so we, nationally, May 1st is the nationwide confirmation deadline. And so we are still some 10 days out from that or so. And we're seeing very positive trends. First of all, over the course of the application cycle, Miami saw about a 10.3% increase in our applications for the fall 21 class. We received just under 38,000 or so applications, the most in Miami's history. So that was a very positive sign. And then right now, as we're looking towards May 1, we're tracking our confirmations. Those are students that are raising their hand and saying, I'm in, I want to be a part of the Miami family. And right now, confirmations are up about 13% year over year. And so we are hopeful and optimistic that we're going to have another great class of Miamians as we turn towards the fall of 2021. Wonderful. Well, as always, it's so wonderful to get an opportunity to chat with you for a little bit. And I thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you. Well, thank you. All right. Now we're going to transition over to our student scholarship panel. Today we are joined by 3 students, each of who is a recipient of a donor-funded scholarship here at Miami University. I'm honored to introduce each of them. First, we have Julian Huff, a senior sports leadership and management and media culture double major from Cleveland, Ohio. Say hi, Julian.
How's it going, everybody?
Next, we have Carolyn Scully, who is also a senior. She is a strategic communications and psychology double major, also from Cleveland. Carolyn?
Hello, thank you for having me.
And last, we have Jeffrey Jones, who is a sophomore communication design major from Hamilton, Ohio. Jeffrey is a first-generation student who is also a husband and father who's looking to start a new tradition of earning a college degree. Jeffrey?
Hello, everyone.
Okay, well, welcome to each of you. For this portion of the panel series, I have a series of questions that I would like to get your insight on as a current recipient of a donor-funded scholarship. So we'll kind of stick with our order, Julian, Carolyn, and Jeffrey. So we'll start with Julian with the question of, how did it feel when you first received your scholarship?
It felt amazing. I mean, I was in shock. I didn't actually know that I was receiving a scholarship at first. So when I got it, I kind of just like screamed in my room, and my parents were like, "Hey, like, what's going on?" And I'm like, "I got a scholarship," and they're like, "No way, really?" And it really made me grateful because it put me in a position where I don't have to really worry about finances at college, which makes the college experience so much more interesting and unique. And it allowed me to focus more on my studies in college. So that changed my entire perspective of my time at Miami. And it just made my ultimate experience better, even through COVID. So, yes.
All right, Carolyn.
I think Julian said it well and encapsulated it with the word grateful. I remember I was trying to think back of when I first opened my packet, and it was way back in 2017, and I wasn't even sure how to read it, but I showed it to my mom, and I had a brother who had gone to a different school, and she was just amazed with the gratuity that we've received in terms of financial support. And even though I didn't fully understand it at first, now going back and looking at it and realizing that was the most impactful moment of my 4 years, is just looking at it and remembering and being able to think exactly like Julian said, it wasn't going to be a concern. And I knew when I first visited Miami that this was the place I was going to be, but I didn't fully let myself be excited for it because I was like, okay, how am I going to pay for that? And the second I saw it, it just kind of made me realize, okay, this is the place that I can be, and this is the place that I'm meant to be.
All right, and Jeffrey?
Yeah, I felt extremely grateful for people to invest in me that didn't even know me, especially coming from a family that was underprivileged. We didn't have the financial stability to be able to send me off to college, which is kind of why I decided to go later. And I'm just super grateful that you guys are building into my dreams, into my family's dream. I was super excited. I went and told my family, like, hey, I got a scholarship. You know, this dream is like becoming a reality. So it's very helpful financially because I'm not working, and my wife is the only one working. So it's just been really helpful for our family. Thank you.
Good. All right, so next up we have, what is your proudest accomplishment in your time here at Miami? Julian?
I have so many accomplishments here at the university, but I think one that really stuck out to me was when I worked with Monica Adkins, and she brought up students from Hamilton, and I think it was about 20 students, and a few people were chosen to work with those kids, and I was able to work with them for an entire day before I went on a trip to Chicago through the university. And working with those kids, because these kids were really young, and for me, I really like, giving back to the youth. I want them to see someone like me, someone like others, so they can be like, oh, I can go to college too. I can do this too. Because when I was younger, it never really crossed my mind. I mean, all I was really into was like, video games and stuff like that. So seeing someone like me who looks like them as well was really important for me. And for me to interact with them and show them what the college experience is like just made it so sweet for me, because in the back of my head, I'm here and that's great, but I want to get the next person here and help the next person after that. And if I can help one person there, they can help the next two people, and those two people can help four people, and it should just go on like that. So that's probably my proudest accomplishment, working with those kids. And sadly, I didn't get to do it the next year because of COVID, but that one time was sweet. I got a lot of pictures with them, and I wish them the best right now, and I know they're doing well. So.
Good. Oh, wonderful. Carolyn?
I would say mine's a little bit more on the academic side. As my intro stated, I'm a psychology and strategic communication double major, and I'm looking to go into business management and human resources, and that is not either of those two majors. So my greatest accomplishment has definitely been able to actually making that happen with the classes I'm able to take both in and outside of my majors. And I was able to work on two pretty solid internships the past 2 summers that I was able to receive credit for. And that is, again, something that I received through a separate scholarship. And an internship is something that you have to graduate. And it's almost also something you have to pay for in terms of the credit hours. And so being able to accomplish my own professional goals while still getting that financial help has been amazing and has really helped my professional development, and both as a student, professional, and even as a person as well.
Wonderful. All right, Jeffrey. Oh, we have a little pause here. Jeffrey, did you have some thoughts on your proudest accomplishment? Oh, maybe we can come back to Jeffrey a little later on that one. Should we move on to our next question? We have, in all, we're all aware that it's been a really crazy year with coronavirus kind of taking all of us off our typical schedule. So as you've gone through this last year, what has been your hardest adjustment you have faced? Julian?
I think my hardest adjustment was really just like abruptly leaving campus, and I miss my friends. I miss seeing my teachers in person. The teachers were great when we transitioned to online, and I was still able to learn. And I actually feel like I learned better sometimes. But I think the hardest adjustment was having that space, because it made everything feel awkward. But on the other end, I was able to spend time with my family. I was able to relax a little bit, so that was nice. But the adjustment of doing online classes is definitely a big one, because it's like, oh, I'm just going to Zoom today. Like, it's not as intriguing as it is when you get up and you're going to class and you're walking past a beautiful campus every day, and energy is just shooting through your body because everyone's on campus and everyone's heading to class and everyone's trying to get it. Whereas you're on Zoom and you're waking up and it's just like, I am in class today in Zoom. So that's been the hardest adjustment for me.
Yeah. Oh, do we have Jeffrey back with us?
I am back.
Wonderful. We'll skip back to that last question and have you share with us a little bit about your proudest accomplishment here at Miami.
Okay. Yeah, I would say just being able to receive a letter in the mail that said I was accepted into Miami. And to my own amazement, I've been able to stay on the dean's list. And this past week, I was accepted into my communication design program. So it's just something that I didn't think was obtainable for me. I had been a photographer and did some stuff kind of in marketing in previous years, just on my own, but I really felt I needed to get a college degree. And I also wanted my 3 sons to see like, hey, look, dad's doing this, so we can do this. And I wanted them to know that it's possible that, they can make it and go to college and get an education, because it's definitely going to be helpful for them in the future, especially where I see our nation going and our economy to be an educated Black man. So yeah, those are the things kind of together that make me proud.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations on your acceptance.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So back to our question about the crazy year we're in the middle of. So we'll pick up with Carolyn. Kind of what is your hardest adjustment over this last year?
And again, I would say, what's similar, what Julian said, is that we kind of lost the campus environment. We lost walking to class in the pretty blooms of April or March of what we were experiencing last year. And we're just missing that vibe that we had. I think Miami has such a strong campus student life that it was really hard to push our student organizations online. I work in the Wilkes leadership office, and we had to do that online. So figuring out how we're going to transition everything that we do in person so well. We have great professors, we have great classes, great colleges and whatnot, and being able to have that just on a screen has been incredibly difficult. But I also like what Julian said about how we've kind of gotten used to it now. Zoom classes, yes, they're not the greatest, but they have their benefits as well. And I think the addition to just having to do that and having to all stay in our classroom, both in Oxford and at home, has been incredibly difficult for us all, both on the professor and student side. But I'm looking forward to seeing what in-person classes look like next fall.
Wonderful. All right, Jeffrey, we're up with your crazy year. What was your hardest adjustment?
Yeah, I would say I agree. I miss the community of actually being on campus and the support that you get If you needed to talk to a professor, they were always available, or you could just walk into an office. I missed the office on diversity, where there were discussions that would happen about things happening in our world. And yeah, it's just, I'm a person that I think learns well in a classroom setting. So it was definitely a challenge for me trying to adjust to online learning and have my kids also learning online. For a moment, I honestly thought like that I'm gonna lose it, but I made it through, and somehow we got through this. And I think you realize you're stronger than you are when you come up against the obstacle in your life, and that's what I appreciate from this, year plus of what happened with COVID and how the world literally needed to change overnight to adjust to a different way of life, a different way of learning, a different way of shopping, a different way of walking out, on the sidewalk to go down the street. So I am thankful that we're going to be going back to in-person classes. So
Good. All right, so building off that, to not just focus on, the hard part of it, but, look for a silver lining. So could each of you share a little bit about what has surprised you as that positive outcome in this last year? Julian?
As I previously mentioned before, just slightly, being able to spend time with family. For me, outside of school, I also model and act. So I'm often traveling for work and working a lot, like when I'm not in school. So it didn't give me a lot of time to, be with my family. And during COVID, I was able to really spend time with my family and help nurture my younger brother, because my younger brother is 17 years old now, and, he needs a big brother there. My parents are great, but, his big brother's got to be there. So I think going home and spending time with them was really nice, because it allowed me to build that connection up. Because, after I graduate, I'm going to work full time. It's going to be, full work, and I won't be home. So having that time with my family was really important for me, as it got me back to my roots. It got me closer to my family again. It really established that connection with my younger brother and allowed him to see what I'm doing and how he can do that as well. And I also think another bright thing was being able to work, because I'm a very creative person. And Miami's implementing a lot of new creative things here on campus, but sometimes I also want to create off of campus. And I was able to do that. And I also was able to work with a nonprofit this summer for at-risk youth in Lorain, Ohio. So that was also really nice, because it was an 8-week program that I ran for those kids. So that opportunity would have never came if COVID would have never happened. So there's a lot of positives to take away. There's a lot of negatives to take away. All in all, I'm a strong believer of everything happens for a reason.
Wonderful. All right, Carolyn?
I think I would focus on how empathetic and flexible humankind can be. I think our professors have been incredibly empathetic in student situations. Students internationally, students domestic, students in Oxford, not in Oxford. They're all across the world right now, and they have been as flexible and adaptable as they can be, and understanding of plenty of different situations. If a student can't log into the Zoom for the day, it seems as almost most, if not all, of my professors were very understanding in that, and understanding how can we help that student get the material just as someone would if they were going on Zoom and whatnot. And speaking of Zoom, I think everyone has kind of shown how flexible we can be. For example, the student panel wouldn't have happened if we all couldn't be in Oxford. And so you can log on a call with somebody in Oxford and also somebody in California and have the same exact experience. And I think people kind of really focused on being in the space that's best works for them. And we can take classes wherever we are and do things like this wherever we are. And I think that has been awesome. And I'm really interested to see how that will change both the professional world, the academic world, and even our social lives as well. We were able to have several birthday Zoom parties this summer with my family that I have not seen in a very long time. And we wouldn't have been able to have that before because they live across the country. So having little things like that, I think, have really made it better.
Wonderful. All right, Jeffrey, what's your silver lining?
Yeah, I agree with Carolyn that it helped create empathy, and with Julian, just the family time that it allowed that may not have been allowed. We appreciated nature more, went on hikes, went on bike rides. And I think it's the small things in life that we take for granted every day, like being with family, like being able to travel on an airplane, or being able to get in a car with a friend, or go inside of a restaurant and eat. Those are the small things that I think we just don't think of every day. And I'm thankful for what COVID has taught us, even though it was a little scary in the beginning, and there was a lot of uncertainty. I was like, do I need to drop out of school for now and go back when COVID is over? Just different things like that. You know, people lost their jobs. And I think as the human race, we were able to actually see each other. People were giving in different ways, like the home concerts that happened just brought us together. And I think there is that togetherness that has happened through COVID, where we see each other differently now.
Wonderful. All right, so we have 2 seniors and 1 sophomore. So obviously we're kind of at a, you know, each of you are at a different stage in this kind of planning. But as we look to the future, what are your plans, your goals for after graduation? What are you excited about? Julian?
Oh, I'm excited about so much. So actually, really, I'm only 20 years old, so I'm graduating early. When I was in high school, I graduated with my Associate of Arts degree. So I'm a little nervous. I'm young. You know, I'm not even 21 yet. I'll be 21 in September. But I have so much to look forward to. As I mentioned before, I'm going to continue to model and act. But I also have side businesses. So I've been working on rental properties as well. And I also have a management company where I manage talent. So recently, I actually just booked one of my talent in New York on a Reebok job. So that was really exciting. And I'm excited to work with more talent because there's only so much time in the day. And I'm realizing that here at school. And I've realized that over the past few years. So I can only do so much at, maximum capacity while I'm here in school, because I'm also trying to make sure I get my A's and B's like I always do. So I think graduating is going to free up a lot of that time, and it'll give me more time to read more books and invest in stocks more as well, because I've been doing that. And I feel like now that I have my education and I have a strong network, because Miami has opened up a network for me, and it's insane. Like, for example, last week I emailed Patty Newberry. I don't know if you guys know who she is. And I asked her for some media connections throughout the world, and she responded with like amazing media connections. Like you wouldn't even believe it. And she was like, here's their email. Please reach out to them. So I think the future is bright, and it's only going to get brighter. And I know there's going to be down days, but I'm excited. I'm really excited. And I feel like I have the support and community, and I feel like I have the education to keep going. And I feel like things are going to be really good. And I'm happy. I'm happy. I truly am. So, yeah.
That's wonderful, Julian. Thank you. Next up, we have Carolyn. Kind of what are your big goals and what are you looking forward to?
I recently just accepted my first full-time job as a general management development program at CVS Health. And it's a very long program. It's 4.5 years with 3 18-month different rotations with a new job and a new role. And I'm most looking forward to moving across the United States. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, go to school in Oxford. I've never left the state or the region. And I'm looking forward to moving to the Northeast, somewhere in New England, somewhere in the West. Who knows? I don't really get to decide. CVS does that for me. I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of new people and learning a lot about healthcare. I think COVID has really shown a lot of the gaps and disparities that healthcare has. And I'm really excited to take what I've learned from Miami and taking what I'm learning from CVS in a place there's not a lot of Miami alumni within that company. So I'm looking forward to kind of starting that trend a little bit more and moving to new cities and joining different alumni chapters and seeing how my education will connect to my professional goals. And I'm really excited.
Well, wonderful. Congratulations. All right. Lastly, Jeffrey, you're a little farther out than Julian and Carolyn.
Yeah.
Some plans as you
I am, but I'm older, and I have some real world experience out there. When I lived in Kansas City, I actually worked for the Arts Commission, doing some stuff with design and marketing. But when I'm done, I would like to work for a firm for at least a year, but then I would like to open up my own firm in Hamilton for design, and see what happens with that. Maybe between here, Hamilton, Oxford, and Cincinnati, wherever I land. I would love to open up my own business, and I want to do a lot with Design for Good, where I can help a nonprofit out, or even with like the different protests that happen, just designing signs where people can be heard and communicate in a safe way. I want to be able to design things like that are tangible for people as well. So those are my goals right now, and just being successful in school and doing my best, in every course that I take here at Miami. I'm super grateful. And like Julian was saying, the community that Miami creates, it does feel like a family. It truly does. And I didn't realize college would feel this way. So I'm grateful for that. And Carolyn, I just love you mentioned you want to travel and get out, and it will change your perspective on life. So enjoy that.
All right, wonderful. Well, our last question here is kind of more of an opportunity if for each of you, if you had, you could have an opportunity to say thank you to those that have made these scholarships possible. What would you say to those donors that have provided scholarships in support of you and all your classmates here at Miami? Julian?
I just really want to say thank you, because it's not just like, hey, here's a scholarship. It's so much more than that. I think when you give back like this, it encourages other people to give back, and it transcends to everyone else. And I feel like that's really important, and it shows how much you care about the university and about others. And that means a lot to me. It means a lot to my peers. It means a lot to my family. It means a lot to other families. And it's really important, because now it motivates me to want to go out in the world, do really well, and then give back to others. And give back to others while I'm doing well as well. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to really explain and put all of the emotion into just thoughts, but in words. It's just surreal though. It just shows who you are as a person, and I think it's really important. And I'm glad you guys did it, and I'm glad you guys are still doing it and have been doing it for years. And now I plan to do it, and I hope Carolyn, Jeff, and others plan to do it as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn?
I would say, if I could say thank you 1,000 to 1,000,000 times, I probably would. I can't also put into the emotions and all the gratitude into the specific words. I think everything that I've accomplished here, all of the people I've met, student organizations I've helped run, student jobs, internships, whatever, it's all a product of the ability for myself to go here because of the financial support I've received. I think giving a scholarship, and more specifically being given a donor scholarship, has motivated me even more than it would be if it was anything else. And I think that has really built something in me that I would have never learned otherwise throughout this experience. And I think it's made me want to work harder for both myself and for others. And as Julian said, I cannot wait to give back to the school and what has given to me. And it's something that I have made a mission, both professionally, to start pretty much as soon as after graduation, to start figuring out how I can make that happen and just pay back everything that I was given and more for students like me in the future.
Wonderful. And Jeffrey?
Yeah, I would just like to say I feel extremely honored that I was chosen, that you guys looked over my papers and things that I had written, and you chose me. And I just want you to know that your investment doesn't only affect me, but it affects generations, like the trajectory and future of my children and my children's children. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I agree, you have to give back. You can't just be a recipient of something. And I think it's something that actually is ingrained into us by your generosity, is that, we can give back, and that we're going to be in a situation where we don't have to have lack in our lives, but we can move forward with provision, and we can move forward thriving instead of surviving. So yeah, thank you so much, all of you that have invested in me, from the bottom of my heart.
Wonderful. Well, Julian, Carolyn, and Jeffrey, it's really been an honor to even get to be part of your educational journey for this little bit. It's one of my favorite parts of the work that I do, is to get to interact and be impressed by the hard work that each of you do, and just the wonderful journey you're on and the places that you'll go. So thank you for taking this time. I know you guys are all really busy, so I appreciate you sitting with us and sharing your story. And those of you watching at home, thank you for joining our virtual panel. And please know that the support that you are giving is deeply appreciated and really does make a difference. Until next time, be well and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.